Chief Elvin Barren joins us here on the MegaCast. He's with the Southfield Police Department. And Chief, I should say congratulations on 2 years, right, this month?
That's right. As of July 29th, it will be 2 years with the Southfield Police Department.
Look at that. After more than 20 with Detroit Police?
Yes, ma'am. Served 21 years with the Detroit Police Department. I left as a deputy chief at that time, where I oversaw the largest portion of the DPD with all the East Side precincts, all the tactical units, and many of you remember me from managing all of the protests and all the critical incidents, such as barricaded gun persons.
Well, Detroit Police, definitely a good training ground. I remember when you left and you got the job in Southfield, what a loss for Detroit, but what a huge win for the city of Southfield to have you and your experience come to the city. 2 years on the year, and a year and a half of that is spent in the middle of a pandemic. What's this time been like for you?
Yeah, and the pandemic, as with all agencies, was very challenging. Trying to make sure that when we responded to calls for service, that we did it in a safe manner for our officers as well as the community. As an example, we use our dispatchers, and I always want to give our dispatchers much credit, particularly during the pandemic, because they were able to receive calls, ask those very important questions about recent travel, which gave our officers an idea of what's happening in that home. If anyone's sick, we were able to prepare our response by making sure we had our proper PPE to protect us as well as the individuals we were going to service. So a very challenging time, but we got through it.
So with that, Chief, if I can ask, because we do know that this is a challenging time for law enforcement in general, what's it been like for you looking at it from the top cop job there in Southfield and trying to build that community relationship, but also trying to hire people to come into law enforcement right now?
Yeah, and I'm very fortunate to have a community in Southfield that's very receptive of the police department. They're very engaged, they're active. As an example, I have a Chiefs Advisory Board, which has about 40 residents who give me advice. We share information, I provide training. And during those conversations, we're able to express what the city needs. And I'll give you an example. Domestic violence is something that we've seen increase during this pandemic, and this is a national increase in domestic violence incidents. But we were able to respond by organizing a high-risk response team for domestic violence. And what that means is representatives of the court, and I'm talking about judges and prosecutors, public safety officials, our good friends from Haven and the Southfield Domestic Violence Group. And we have monthly meetings where we do case reviews. We hold each other accountable to ensure that nothing slips past the cracks as it relates to domestic violence response. And that was a huge example of community partnerships coming together during a difficult time.
Again, we're talking with Chief Elvin Barren here on the MegaCast. He's with the Southfield Police Department. I know that you haven't been on the job that long, but yet you have already implemented several other new programs. Do you want to talk about some of those?
Yeah, and we're very big in Southfield Police Department on our youth engagement. And oftentimes, I often share what we're doing in Southfield on our Facebook page and also my personal page, so the community knows what's going on. And I'll give an example when it comes to our youth. And so right now, due to recent events nationally, certainly with the murder of George Floyd, a lot of our youth are angry, they're upset, and they're confused. And so we put together a program of what to do if stopped by the police. It was very successful, very well attended by our youth and their parents, where we simulated traffic stops and gave them the opportunity to see what it's like to go through an encounter with the police department, know what their rights are as it relates to citizen driving, know what they can expect from a police officer, specifically a Southfield police officer, in the area of professionalism and training. And so this initiative was very well received. Our youth understood now the aspects of being involved in the police encounter, and now they know how to conduct themselves, and again, know what their rights are as it relates to police officers and what to do if they're not satisfied with police service during that encounter.
So with that, Chief, how important has social media been to you and your team to try to reach the community in the pandemic? Because we do know, too, a lot of people still aren't comfortable going out in public.
Yeah, social media has been very valuable, as nothing else, getting the word out. Again, we do a lot of different community events, community initiatives, and what better way to reach our youth, reach other citizens who may not have access to the internet by way of being at home on TV. Oftentimes, people use their phones as a way to get their information, and it's been very valuable. When I'm talking about Facebook, Twitter, because a lot of times the information that we put out is shared through these different networks by our community members and residents. So it's been very helpful.
So with that, obviously we know that you worked under Chief Craig, and one thing Chief Craig was very good at was utilizing social media to help tell the department's story, but also to tell his story. Anytime he did an interview with the media, they live streamed it. What lessons did you learn from working under Chief Craig?
Well, Chief Craig served as my mentor. Certainly, I recognize him for giving me an opportunity. If you recall, the assignments that I had at the Detroit Police Department were critical assignments, and he trusted me with those assignments. And as a result, the Detroit Police Department, under my leadership, maintained protests where they were not of any unrest. When it came to me managing critical incidents such as barricaded gun persons, we had minimal incidents of casualties. We were able to resolve those incidents at a high volume with peace and no injury to the suspect or, an example, any hostages that may have been involved. So Chief Craig continues to be a good friend of mine. We continue to talk to this day. And again, I did learn a lot from him as to how to utilize the media. Because there's no secret, before my arrival to the city of Southfield, the media outlets didn't get a whole lot of cooperation from the police department. But knowing what I learned, that the media is very valuable at sharing information and resolving issues. And I'll give you a quick example. When we were recently accused of misconduct by an individual on social media platform who made false allegations that we threw him to the ground and we walked away as if nothing happened. We treated him so terribly. Well, the Bodyworn Cameras presented a different view of that encounter where we were very respectful, we were very patient with this young man, and it was a disappointment that he chose to have a false narrative. But again, that's another way that social media can be of a balance, because when he put that information out, many people believed it right away, but it was our counter with the media and social media that was able to resolve that and assure the community that that did not happen in this police department.
You know, talking with a lot of police officers, for them, they're happy that they finally have some of the cameras, because it's like, in situations just like that, it, is really for their safety more so than for the public safety as well.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, and again, I was accustomed to having body-worn cameras in Detroit. As you know or may not know, my top priority when I arrived at the Southfield Police Department was to get body-worn cameras for this agency. And so initially, you had a split thought process with the officers. Some were eager to get them, some not so much. But we moved very quickly, ensuring that we got the body-worn cameras, and the benefits have been very, very much received by the officers. Because oftentimes we do get false complaints. In addition to the one I just shared, we get other complaints that are false relative to demeanor, procedure, or even use of force. And since we implemented this process in my leadership, almost all of the complaints have been resolved with unfounded, because the body cameras showed exactly what happened, and the officers now understand the value in having this, because as you articulated, it does protect the city, it does protect the officers from false allegations and false liability.
Now, I'm going to tell you though, Chief, I'd be the type of person I would forget to turn it off when I went to use the potty. I mean, come
Oh boy.
I've done that before, like with the mic, and you had the mic on, and then they could hear you in the studio, and it's like,
Yeah, well.
you know, it happens. Come on. We keep it real here on the MegaCast, Chief.
Yeah, those things happen, and when those things happen, the officer, all they need to do is alert their supervisor, and we're able to make sure that is grabbed and taken out.
Yeah, because you don't want to FOIA that. I FOIA all the time.
Who would?
Exactly. And before we get off that conversation of body cameras, because this police chief, this police department, I maintain a balance. So if we in this business of policing or a member of this agency crosses the line in policing, because our policy states that with any contact with the citizens, the body-worn cameras must be activated. And so what that translates to you and your listening audience, if we do something that defies the badge, this police chief will hold members accountable just as equally as I support them when they do right.
Chief Elvin Barren with us here on the MegaCast with the Southfield Police Department. I will say, when I heard that James Craig was retiring, I was wondering, were you going to be heading back to the D? You know, I was like, ooh, Southfield might be worried there.
Yeah, so it was a lot of conversations about me returning to Detroit, a lot of media inquiries, a lot of conversations in homes. And so I'm going to start off by thanking the city of Detroit for at least wanting me to come back. It was a good feeling that they really wanted me to come back and sit that seat. And also thank the citizens of Southfield and the Southfield Police Department who had anxiety because they did not want me to depart and go back to the city that I love as well. And so at this time, I'm going to stay committed to the city of Southfield. As I mentioned before, as we discussed, we'll have 2 years with the Southfield Police Department, and I want to show some consistency. Leaving right now would be more harmful to the agency. More work needs to be done. I'm in the process of mentoring some lieutenants and some sergeants. And so I want to continue the work the community I've bonded with. And so that doesn't mean at some point I won't leave to go to another agency, because I do have long-term plans of maybe being a major city police chief, whether that's here in Detroit or somewhere else. But right now, I'm committed to the city of Southfield and the Southfield Police Department.
Well, they're definitely very lucky to have you. But I have to tell you, Chief, you have some competition when it comes to getting attention. Because first, we had the Troy Police Department that had the cat. You know, the cat went national. Now we have Bloomfield Township Police that got a doodle, a little dog that they've named Maggie. She's going to be a therapy dog. I don't know. What do you? I think there's some competition there, Chief. What are you guys going to get?
Well, you know what? We don't have anything right now, but now that you're spinning my mind into what we could possibly get as some type of addition in the area of connecting with the community. So that's something I'll think about. I'll poll the officers in our agency, get some of their ideas, and maybe we may come up with something in the near future.
I'll tell you what I think you guys should do is get one of those, either a baby goat or like a baby pig, you know, those little miniature pigs for a cop. Come on, that'd be great. And you could dress it up. They do. They put the little tutus on those little piggies.
My God.
Well, you know, I don't think that the pig one would be received. As you know, some of the negative conversations about cops and that animal. But we'll look at other ideas, and maybe we'll come up with something.
No, there was that police department, and there was someone's pig, and it got out, and so the police department, they caught the pig, and they had it in the back of the cruiser, and you know, and they had a little fun with it, and again, it went national, you know.
Yeah.
Well, Chief, we so appreciate your time, and again, the citizens of Southfield are so lucky to have you. And you're already doing great things there in the city, and like I said, 2 years and a year and a half of that's been spent in a pandemic. So we wish you the best, and thank you again for your time, Chief.
Hey, and thank you for having me, and I look forward to being back on this show sometime in the future.